Hi, and welcome to another edition of Race Stories with Billy and Sam. This is our 45th car edition, so thanks so much for joining us.
That's because the previous 44 editions all got cut because we couldn't do the filming correctly.
Well, I mean, some of them made it. Obviously, if they've watched our episodes, we really appreciate it. Hi, Mom. So this is the Treasure Coast edition. What do you call this? I'm gonna call it just south of Vero Beach.
Port Pierce is where it was. Port St. Lucie, the same area.
Yeah, just a little north of Miami for our friends from the rest of the country. So a local race. The race company only does races here in Florida, but they do them all the way from Jacksonville down to the Keys.
And they do a number of races, and you can tell. I mean, I think this is their full-time job, and it was a well put on race. I mean, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This was a very well run race. It was interesting. We got to speak to the race directors, Willie and Brian, for a while. And Brian was really interesting. He said that, you know, when you do a lot of races and you have an idea, you get to try it out the next week, or, you know, within the next couple of weeks. And so, you know, they're constantly improving, and things like they did the dynamic swim entry, you know, which Challenge has not yet mastered. So it's very rare to find that for a local race, things like that. They put on a fantastic race. So for us, this was a drive, no flights, kind of nice. So we drove down, but
now we're driving back.
Now we're on the way home. So enjoy our drive. We are going to drone on for at least 3 hours.
Hope not.
And we just lost half of our viewership right there.
Right. They already know, man. On the YouTube thing, it shows how long the video is.
Thanks for spoilers. So check-in, we did the day before check-in. You could do day of check-in. That's pretty cool. The swag was the standard running bag, cheap
Stream bag.
Which, I don't know, I have mixed feelings on that. You know, I've got a lot of bags, so I don't really need any more, but I don't, it's cheap and you're going to throw it away.
They hooked us up with other stuff.
But, that's true. We'll go over the rest of the stuff. We got a sticker, and...
I mean, I don't understand why more local races don't do stickers. I mean, it's just advertising for them, and it can't cost them hardly anything.
No, that's a $30 Ironman sticker right
probably,
there.
Yeah, sure is.
We got a water bottle from Liv. We're going to have to look this up. The Mighty Mueller Triathlon, held in Texas, Florida, Austin, and then
so advertising for another company.
Yeah, it's really clever. You know, usually you get those like stack of papers that for me immediately go in the trash. This is a really clever marketing thing. Hey, come look at our triathlons. This is a different company than Game On that put it on. I don't know if they're related or what the deal was, but you know, always appreciate a good water bottle. And I have a daughter who will love a good purple water bottle. But the good one, the goodie in the goodie bag was the aluminum water bottle with the Triathlon on it. You know, we talk about, you know, the hats, and I love the hats, but you know, you're looking for a way to advertise your race, and of course the racer's looking for a way to advertise that they did your race. Yeah, pretty awesome. I did the Treasure Coast, so this is something cool you can take to the office and, hey, you know, check me out, or take on a run, or, you know, whatever you're feeling. So I don't think we've gotten an aluminum water bottle all year, so kudos to them for coming up with, you know, something a little different. Yeah. That's cool. So also got the t-shirt, and the seatbelt is only letting me show you that.
Cotton t-shirt, but it's nice and soft.
It is nice and soft.
And it's a name t-shirt.
It has the names on the back.
Yeah.
I pointed out to Willie that William's name was first on the thing.
Women!
So, kind of a 50-50 reaction there. I didn't like it. So, we're not competitive. It's fine. I'm pretty sure I could just cut at my name out and then re-sew it in front of yours. We'll just transpose it that way and be fine.
You're not going to do that.
So, I think your namesake is safe. So, race morning. I don't know, you got anything to add to transition?
No, so early race start. We can talk about transition. 3 bikes per rack. Oh my goodness.
He is not joking.
Wonderful.
Not 3 bikes on one side and then 3 bikes on the other side. There was a rack, standard rack. There were only 3 bikes on it.
That was very nice.
It looked like they capped out around 50 or so spots.
It was a
half.
pretty. So they had a half iron and an Olympic, or they called it international distance race, and so there were a fair number of people in the race, but for the half, they even had 3 bikes per rack for the international.
Did they? Yes, I saw that. Yeah. Right.
So had plenty of room for growth, but since they had plenty of room in transition, the 3 bikes per rack were nice.
That's really appreciated. Because they take the effort to set up all of those racks, and that's a lot more work. Most other races will just do. Even 6 bikes per rack is, we would consider
nice.
that a roomy. 7's tight, and 8 is just Iron Man.
Yeah.
So that they went through the extra effort to set up the extra things was really appreciated and really nice.
Yeah. So it's an early start. The swim starts at 6:40 a.m. for the half iron. They didn't close transition until 6:45, so you had plenty of time to set up. And the swim start was not very far from transition.
No.
They did do a little pre-race briefing at the swim start, so it's good. They did the same thing with the national anthem prior to race start too. So it's good to get to the swim start a little bit early, and you kind of, they'll kind of point out the course, because it's a little different swim than what you would normally see in one of these races. But man, there's so much room. It took us 10 minutes to set up everything, and we were standing around talking to people.
It took you 10 minutes to set up everything. It always takes me longer.
Yeah, well, we spent a lot of time standing around talking to people.
There was tons of time.
We got there an hour, like 5:40 or whatever.
We got there at 5:40, and there are 2 lots.
2 parking lots.
Sorry, thank you. 2 parking lots. One right there at it, and one, I don't know, maybe 200 yards down the road. So, not horribly far. But we were the last car in that lower spot. So,
it's not that far to the other lot. I don't know that. You might get a little extra sleep. It might be worth it for you to walk the extra 50 yards. It was not far.
No, not far at all. So, swim was very interesting. It's a 2-loop swim in the bay, and the bay was a little choppy. We were talking about this after the race. On an ocean swim, I swim in the ocean enough that you get a feel for the swales and how to breathe with the motion. The bay was just a little choppy, and so I never really got into a good rhythm of here's where I'm timing with the water.
And since it was 2 loops, it was basically, wasn't really a square, but there were, if you can imagine, a square-ish swim. So you swam a little ways, and then you turned and went a different direction. So you just, I didn't swallow. I got a bunch of salt water in my mouth just because sometimes you'd open your mouth to breathe and there'd be a wave, little wave. It was not.
It was not bad, and their advantage of doing that 2-loop course was that they, given you have X number of lifeguards, you don't have to spread them out over a large course. They can be more concentrated. So there were plenty of guys on paddle boards. There was a police boat that was in no way helpful.
I mean, it was sitting there for emergencies, I guess.
But every time I got close to them, they were never looking at the water. I don't know what they were doing.
Waiting on somebody to call them, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I appreciated that it didn't appear that it was cranked up because I didn't have to smell the smoke or whatever.
That was nice. I'll give you that.
The disadvantage of this, so this one you swam one loop. You got out of the water and did a little horseshoe over the timing mat, and then got back in the water and did a second loop. And the horseshoe was not much out of the water, but it did give you a chance to like adjust your goggles if you needed to, or whatever. The disadvantage of this swim, the probably what I'm going to nitpick, is when you made the turn to go towards the finish line, you were looking straight into the rising sun.
Oh,
and there were no sighting buoys. The only extra buoys they had up there, by the time you got to them, you're walking. So there was nothing. I mean, I ended up finding some palm trees on shore that I could sight off of, but you were looking dead into the sun, and that was, I mean, if you're doing a square, you're always going to look into the sun at any time, and they did make that end shorter than the other end. But they just needed more sighting buoys. I mean, that's really so that I don't have to look at shore. I can look, to a sighting buoy. I mean, there was one race we did where they knew you were looking into the sun, and so they put out 200 yards of pool buoys. So you could just swim on that. But so that's I didn't like that part of the swim. The rest of the swim was fine. They did the rolling start, which was good. You're doing a square, so if there's any current, there seemed to be a little bit of tide. I think the tide was coming in, so it was a little bit harder on one end and a little bit easier on the other. But it wasn't awful. It was not a super fast swim for me.
No.
I don't know if the wind had anything to do with that or what the issue was. But it did take me longer to do the swim than I thought that it should.
Yeah, it was for me, I stopped my watch at 43 minutes on the land, and I was expecting that to be around a 40-minute swim. So, not terribly longer, but a little bit longer than expected. So, yeah, I'm with you. On the sun, you got it exactly right. You got a score for it?
Do we even do scores for these? I think we just do a score at the end, don't we?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the bike.
Yeah, so you hop off out of the swim. It's a little bit to the...
That's kind of a long run. I'm going to call it 300 yards. Might be a hair bit under.
Anytime you swim in the ocean, I mean, this was the bay, but anytime you swim in the ocean, it's going to be a little ways to transition. That's just part of it. I would not... If you do this race, I would not recommend running on the sidewalks. Those things are awful.
No. But the grass actually did a nice job cleaning off my feet, cleaning the sand off.
I did it. Yeah, the grass, which is just right next to the sidewalk, just run on it. They said something about having wetsuit peelers, but we never saw those.
There were no peelers.
I mean, there might have been, and we just missed them. But
swim faster.
Yeah, I guess. The bike is just an out and back 2-loop course. I will go ahead and preface this to say that the roads were good Florida roads. There were a few little bumpy areas, but for the most part, really good roads. Compared to what we've been on the last few weeks, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just basically you go out 14 miles, you make a U-turn, and you come back 14 miles. And then the second turn was not actually a U-turn, it was more like a P, like a small P, and there was an aid station in there that you could get, whatever water or Gatorade or whatever they were handing out. And to note, they could not find the squirt bottle Gatorades, so they took water bottles, dumped them out, and put Gatorade in there so that on the bike you could have the squirt bottle of Gatorade.
I have never seen a race do that.
Yeah,
Ever.
I mean, yeah, good for them.
Yeah, really big kudos for
Because
that.
that was extra effort on their part, and I know that couldn't have been a quick. I mean, that had to take it forever.
Right? Yeah.
And Willie even said that they couldn't find the giant Gatorade bottles. They had to buy a whole bunch of small Gatorade bottles and pour them into these. So I'm sure that was an added expense. But doing a lot of races a year, they know that this is required. That racers need this. So good for them for thinking outside of the box and coming up with a solution.
Yeah.
So that was nice. So anyway, you go back out, 14 miles, turn back around. Flat. It's not.
According to my Garmin, there was 317 total feet of climbing.
Yeah, so not Miami flat, which was almost nothing.
Or it was,
but it was very
Maryland's
flat.
not Maryland flat. There were you had I'm not going to call them bridges because it was whatever.
They were technically bridges.
But yeah, when I think of a bridge, I think of a bridge over a river, intercoastal. This is a bridge over a creek, so that was where the elevation came from.
There were like 3 of those.
Yeah, so you hit it, you hit that joker, whatever that is, 3 bridges, 12 times in total. But it was enough to give you some little something.
3 gears. There was 1 gear to go up the bridge, another gear to go down the bridge, and then the third, the
middle
gear in between was just a gear on the straightaway or whatever. And it was relatively straight, not many curves. Or anything.
So Florida race this is an A1A race, which is the road that goes from Jacksonville to Key West. So you're gonna have wind. Occasionally you'll get lucky, and the wind will be running crosswise. So running east to west. But today was not that day.
Nope.
We had a north-south wind,
and it didn't help as much as I thought, and it hurt more. Since it didn't help as much as I thought, that it hurt more than I thought.
Yeah, it felt like it was a little bit of a quartering wind, which always gets me, because you never get the full benefit on the tailwind, but on the headwind you super feel it. I don't. That probably is mental, and it's just in my head. But we were at least 10 minutes slower than we were expecting today on the bike.
Yes. And it wasn't like we were holding back. I mean, we weren't pushing super hard, but we were not holding back. So it was a slower bike than I would have expected from being that flat.
Yeah.
Camera just went crooked.
Hey,
we're going around a curve. You get to go around the curve with us.
If it looks like your computer screen just shifted, we apologize.
There it goes. Flatten back out.
Hey-o. So, anything else to add to the bike?
Was there more than the one aid station?
There was one aid station on this bike. You should prepare for that.
Yeah.
And it was because we should mention that at the first turnaround, that northern turnaround or southern turnaround, they absolutely should have had an aid station there. You would have had 3 aid stations.
So they're running the Olympic or international distance also. So I guess you could have had it after that 12-mile turnaround. So it would have been at like mile 16 or something. Then you would have hit it again. But yeah, there should have been one there.
Yes.
I don't. And there was room. I mean.
Yes.
I guess the deal is you're in the bike lane. The place where they actually had the aid station, you were basically on a back road. So I mean, you're in the bike lane on A1A. They probably just couldn't get permission to put one out there. I mean, I will bet that's what it is.
We'll hope for that.
So anyway, be prepared for only one aid station.
Yeah, and that's. I guess it's at the halfway point on the bike.
Yeah, so. It's relatively cool. So I mean, I wasn't dying for fluids, but don't skip that aid station because that's the only one.
That's true. We should probably go over that. Turnaround was a little different than I was expecting.
I mean, it was a P. I liked it better than a U-turn, really.
Yeah, it was good. I just the way he had described it in the the orientation was not the way it felt. So you basically came into like you were coming back into transition, and then you took a left to go for your second lap. So I tried to do a U-turn in the middle of A1A, and the police lady was not having it. No. So
Go this
don't
way.
do that. Also,
Yeah.
I would have missed out on the water.
I just followed the person in front of me. At that point, I had not called him on the bike, so I didn't catch him till like mile 50.
49.3.
Whatever it was. It
roughly.
was forever.
Not like I was counting.
He was
I
a hard
was
person
trying
to catch.
so hard to get to mile 50 before you caught me. So then I made him slow down so that I could get to mile 50 before he passed me. So yeah, that felt good.
So you said you passed 8 people.
8 people in total.
Yeah, my goal was 10, and I passed 9. So
I was number 9, wasn't I?
no, I'm not. That doesn't include you because
Oh.
I mean you finished the bike before me. I mean you were right there at the dismount line before
Okay.
me. I'm not counting you.
Okay.
I did pass you on the bike, but then you passed me back, so I don't really count.
It doesn't count.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I passed other like Olympic people, but I was
Yeah.
only counting the half iron people. It was so disappointing to finally catch somebody and pass them and realize they're just out for a bike ride.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, because there were a fair number of people. It would take me like 10 minutes. I could see them, and it'd take me like 10 minutes to finally get around them.
Get up
Like,
to
yes. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. This is a flat course, so you can see for miles. So, you can see that person far in the distance, and I'm going to get him. I can't get him. Who else? You had the motorcycle ref on this race, which is super rare on a local race. So that kept it fair. I didn't notice really any drafting. You had 1 or 2 incidents.
I mean, I saw a little peloton, but they were just people out biking.
Right. I noticed that too. I noticed a couple of are they drafting? And then no, they are, but they're in no way associated with the race.
Right.
So yeah, there was certainly some people. I know it's fine. There's plenty of room. Very few cars that early in the morning.
I only saw 1 flat tire. Did you see any more?
I did. I saw the same flat tire.
Yeah. So
yeah, good roads. So yeah, we were a little disappointed with our bike time, but overall the bike course is good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that.
I usually pick on U-turns. This road was super wide. You had 2 bike lanes, or I guess a bike lane on either side. Plus, it was a little extra wide in the middle. So doing that U-turn was not bad at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't change the bike course.
No.
The way they have it set up, I think is perfect.
All right. So we get back and we start running.
So the run, you basically run the opposite way that you bike. Still super flat. I mean, I guess maybe there could have been a little bit of inclines in there, but you didn't go over any bridges or anything. You went under a bridge.
Yeah.
That was nice. That because there's a big bridge to get onto. Is this an island that we were on?
Yes.
It was something. And there's a big bridge to get onto it, but you didn't have to cross that big bridge on the bike or on the run. You actually went under it on the run, so that was nice.
Yeah, that part they did really well. So this is I'm going to call it a double out and back. It didn't quite feel like that because you went on 2 sides of the road.
Yeah.
And so that, on the way back, it's not like you're rushing up against, the guys coming out until they have one segment like that. So tons of room. You did not have very many people, but if you had 3 or 4 times the amount of people doing this race, you would still have a ton of room for running on the sidewalk. Sidewalks were, 8 or 10 feet wide, big sidewalks.
It was an open run course, which, sometimes I don't like that, but this one was fine. I mean, there were people on the sidewalks, but they were very courteous and, made way for you. And it was such a wide sidewalk that you're not really fighting with anybody for space anyway. It was a good run. I call it a good run course.
This was a good run course.
They had you crossed several roads, some small roads, and they had people directing traffic at every one of them. Not police at all of them, although there was some police in some of them, but volunteers that had flags that were stopping cars. So yeah, I mean they've clearly done a bunch of races and know how to do them.
Yes.
Good for them.
Yes. No, an extremely well-run race. And that's coming from, I would still argue that Oilman is the best local run race we've seen ever. So, Oilman being last week.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
Because
that guy, he does Ironman races, so he knows exactly how to do
so
races.
it felt like Oilman felt like an Ironman without the...
And it had more people in it, too.
Cost.
So, yeah.
So yeah, it was certainly a bigger race. But, so I would put this on par with that.
Yeah, that's a good race.
As far as quality.
Yeah. Very well run. I mean, is there anything... There were aid stations, so he said there were aid stations every mile. And that was true for miles 1 through 4.
Mile
and then
5.
mile 5, it was at mile... And they had it was at every mile marker too. So they had the 1 mile marker was there and the aid station was there. 2 mile marker was there and the aid station was right at it. So you get to the 5 mile marker and we're expecting the aid station and there was no aid station.
There twas not.
It was at mile 5.35. But the reason they did that was because the next aid station after that was at mile 6.5. So
yeah. They were kind of
I
splitting that.
I get that. I mean, you would either... I mean, they saved one aid station by doing that. So just be prepared for that. I'm not complaining that there weren't enough aid stations. There were plenty of aid stations. It's just we were expecting them every mile marker, and they weren't.
Yeah, so suddenly, right, you get accustomed to mile marker aid station, and so then you get to that mile marker, and it's where to go.
Yeah, and you don't see it right away. You have to round a curve, and then you can see it off in the distance. And so, it was just a little disappointing, I guess. I don't know how would you... You're like, oh, where's the aid station? And then you run another minute or two, and you're like, oh, there it is up there. So, wasn't that big of a deal. But not...
Yeah, and once again, not super hot. So they handed out 8-ounce bottles of water. One thing that this company did really well, so there's, of course, a trash can immediately following it, but they had generally 1 or 2 more trash cans a fair distance away.
Yes.
So you should feel free to grab your water bottle and clear.
Yeah, I mean, take your time. It's not like you have to chug it and then throw it in that trash can that's right there near their aid station. They had a couple on down, and so just you can kind of look off to see where the other ones are and know that you don't have to, dump, half your water or whatever at that first trash can.
No, so that was really clever.
The bad thing about the water bottles, the first lap, they were cool. I wouldn't say cold, but they were cool.
Yes.
The second lap, they were warm.
They were sitting in the sun.
I mean,
little prisms of heat.
Yeah, I mean, they had just pulled them out of the cooler too early, I guess. Maybe they didn't have a cooler with them.
They had far more supply than they could have ever possibly needed.
Yeah.
Which is the way to do it. I'm not discouraging that at all. When they run out, there was no ice, but it wasn't really needed.
Yeah.
But it might have been nice to keep the water bottles in the shade or in a cooler or something to keep them less hot.
Yeah. I guess the people who ran faster got cooler water bottles, but
yeah, there's your solution. Don't go so slow.
Yeah. Anything to add to the run?
Nothing to add to the run. Go over open course. I tripped once, and that was probably my own fault.
Dragging your feet.
Yeah. No.
Shuffle, man.
Hey, man. It's about energy conservation. So the higher you lift your foot, the more energy you're using to do that, and then of course the more impact as you come down to the next one. So
keep telling yourself that.
That sounds like a real thing. This is science. We met some rocket scientists.
We did meet some rocket scientists for sure.
And so I think they can confirm this.
I bet they probably could.
Downside is, if you're not lifting up high enough, then you're going to catch on something. But for the most part, the sidewalks were amazing. Yeah. Apparently, I found the one little hump in the entire strain. Would not change. The way that this thing ran, the way that the run course, was laid out when you got to mile, really, what is that, 5? Mile 3. So from mile 3 to mile 4 is a lot of, I'm going to call it technical because it's a bunch of curves. But you're going behind this bridge and they've got you going on this kind of interesting little thing. It was a little frustrating the first time because, where am I going? What's happening? And you have to use your brain. So the second time it was fine. Maybe they can't put those cones out the day before. So just know that exists.
They had to probably do all that to make sure that the mileage was correct.
Yeah.
But you're just weaving around a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not a straightaway sprint or whatever. You're going to have a lot of turns as you get close to that. I mean, you see the big bridge, and then when you see that, just know that you're fixing to have a whole bunch of little bitty turns or whatever to get up under the bridge and make the mileage correctly. Finish line?
Finish line was really good. It's a small race, so don't expect many people around it. So really, whoever you brought, and of course, I'm going to call it a small race, but for their Olympic was a reasonable size race. For us, it's small, and of course, the Olympic people are all done for us.
Done and leaving.
Not lots of cheering.
That was one thing about transition. We brought our bikes in, and they were allowing the Olympic people to take their bikes out. So we brought our bikes in from the bike course or whatever. So you're going to rack your bike or whatever, and you got other people bringing them out. Did not affect us any.
No, it was not in the way.
But it was open, which is super unusual.
Yeah, Iron Man would be down there with an iron fist.
Yeah.
Saying no. This is a local course, and as long as you're not interfering with the runners, I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah. All right, so you go through the finish line. That was so we crossed together, and there's a fair amount of time in between people coming through. So the announcer has time, and I'm going to say that's the best announcement that we got. Right?
Yeah, he did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, as far as announcing that
we just set a new world record.
Right.
So it's cool. We get to set a new world record every week.
Right.
So.
Man, I'm going to attribute that to having a lot of time in between people so that you can...
Yeah, it needed some filler.
Yeah. But...
it was cool.
Yeah, that was really neat. And unexpected. I mean, I guess we hadn't set that up beforehand.
Yeah. So what else? They had plenty of snacks.
Pizza.
They had gotten pizza, and they kept bringing in pizzas. So if you miss one, more will be delivered, but that way it kept the pizzas hot.
Yeah.
So kudos to them for getting pizza. We tried Brooklyn pizza the night. What was it?
Super thin crust.
Not a taste. It was a something.
Yeah, I think it was a taste of Brooklyn.
No, it wasn't. It didn't have it was food, and it was not, or it was like
some kind of Italian Brooklyn place.
And that dude was from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
He was hilarious. He was shouting at us from the counter in not a huge restaurant. How's your pie? That was a little more Boston. But it was hilarious. We were having a blast. And very thin. This was a little more, when I think of true Brooklyn pizza, you have to fold it because it's floppy.
Right.
And so this is a little more crispy, and you didn't have to do the fold. But a very good pizza. So,
yep.
So that was fun.
We actually won some awards on this.
Booyah! When you do a small race, you can get first and third place.
Yes, Sam got first in his age group.
I also got last in my age group because there was only me.
When we left, there could have been more people out on the course. You don't know.
That's true. So when we left, I was one of one. So Billy got third.
I was 3 of 4, so there was at least one person that finished behind me. So hopefully there were more and we beat more people.
All right.
When you do a small race, you can win. When we do a small race, we can win. We can get awards like that.
Yeah, you know, some people, we're participants in most races. Some people are athletes in their races where they're trying. Generally, those people are not very talkative. Who else we saw?
We did not have any kind of amazing time. I think it was like 6 hours and 7 minutes.
Yeah, just over 6 hours. I was a little.
So don't think that we have all of a sudden gotten a lot better at racing.
You should definitely think
we
that.
have not.
Absolutely, 100% believe that. We deserve it. We saw Susan Haig, who's always a barrel of laughs.
The GOAT.
So her incredible claim to fame is being stupid enough to do what she's over 125 Ironman now.
Full Ironman?
Full iron distance races.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess she's done more than 125, 140.6 distances to keep Ironman from suing us. So yeah, she is an animal, but she's so fun. So she is a lot like us, and she's there to have a good time.
Yep.
And she's going to have a good time, and you're going to have a good time if you're around her. So if you see her, say hi. What else you got? What else? Any other stories from today?
I think that's it, man.
Yeah.
It was a good race. I mean, we're giving overall ratings. I mean, for a local race, this was a solid 6 for me.
Easy 6 for a local race, yes. Yeah, definitely recommend this one. It's kind of late in the season. I think without the wind, you could have a PR course. Being in the bay, the wind kind of affected it more and made it swim a little slower.
I do not plan for there not to be wind. I mean, that would be super unusual. When you're at the ocean, there's almost always wind, especially on A1A. I mean, think about it. How many times have you gone riding down A1A and there's not been wind?
A fair amount.
Really?
Yeah, it happens.
Okay.
But yeah,
I've never been on A1A with no wind.
And it's kind of a directional thing. Yes. More wind than not. I'll give you that. But you know, when it's a crosswind, it's not a big deal. You just ride through it.
Okay.
So, yeah, easy 6. Recommend the race. This is a great end of season race. And with very few people, you could get awards. So, I will not go with the shutout this year of no awards.
I've never gotten first in my age group ever, even with the small races I've done. And even as small as this race was, I got 3rd. So
I don't know. Did you get first in Black Diamond?
Nope.
Yeah, we've raced some. We have found some
really
local small races. Always need more. If you guys have suggestions, we're looking for races in
January, February, March.
The beginning of the year is be a little tight. COVID pushed everybody back to the end of the year, which is why we've been so successful. I'm gonna say successful. I'm kind of worn out from the end of this season, but you know, there's not a lot on the calendar for early next year yet. So we'll see. We're gonna cross our fingers and hope people start adding some races.
Stay tuned next week from an Egyptian version.
Hey, we are driving home tonight. Billy is driving all the way home tonight because we have to fly out tomorrow for Egypt. And I can't actually pronounce the city that we're going to. Usually I make a guess. I'm not even close. So
starts with an H.
Yeah.
And it's Egyptian.
And ends with. So race stories from next time should be cool, and we promise to do the entire thing like an Egyptian. That's how they speak there, and so when you go through customs, make sure you're doing that, please. The entire line as you're in through the line. So when you walk, do the Egyptian walk. Otherwise, you may be in Egyptian jail.
We'll see. See you next time.
Thanks so much for watching.